All right. Well, as we kind of settle into this crew, I'm going to kick us off with a few announcements. First of all, my name is Teresa Rennie Myers, and I'm the Director of Impact at Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute. We are one of the co-hosts for today, and I'm joined by Angelique. Angelique, if you might want to introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Angelique Espinoza, the Policy Director for Good Business Colorado. We're very pleased to be partnering with RMMFI today.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone. I would like to start us off today with a very brief land acknowledgement. So we are calling in today virtually in Colorado, which is the land of the Ute, Arapaho, and the Cheyenne, as well as many other indigenous tribes who still live and travel here. And we are committed to framing our work in the context of anti-oppression to the best of our ability. I also want to just take a moment to acknowledge that the world right now is a chaotic and at times stressful place. That is true in our country as well. That has certainly been true of the legislative session that we are wrapping up. And so we are gathered in this space today to share stories and to celebrate successes and to amplify the leaders that are in this room. And so I was hoping that we could just take a collective deep breath to get us started, to kind of ground us in the space and the celebration today. So if you'll join me in taking a deep breath in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, and release, 2, 3. I am so excited to be with you all today to share our legislative recap. This is something that Good Business Colorado has been doing for many sessions. This is Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute's first time participating in something like this. And we are looking forward to really me getting off the mic and having the entrepreneurs and the employers and the business owners in this space share the ways that you all have been involved in what this legislative session has looked like for you. I want to give a special call out to, looks like we have a legislator in the audience, Rep. Vahil. Thank you for joining us. We hope that some other folks can be joining us as well today. And our run of show is to have entrepreneurs who have been active in various pieces of this legislative session, as well as overall advocacy, speak to what pieces of policy or otherwise engagements they were active on and why, what the results were, and just any other learnings and takeaways from this session. So again, feel free to join us on or off camera, share your name, your business, and your location in the chat, and feel free to also be using the chat to share any notes or questions that you might have during our time together. I will be getting off the mic here, but I will be coming back on. Angelique and I will close out the hour with an overall legislative recap on some policies that we may or may not spend a ton of time on earlier in the day. But to start us, I would like to introduce two amazing speakers, Mandy and Cynthia, who are joining us today to talk about their work on Senate Bill 152 about regenerative agriculture. And so, Mandy, you're closest on my screen. If I can have you kick us off.
Yes, thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Angelique. It's just been amazing to get to work with
Ahora ya está aquí también.
Oh, and RMMFI, you all have been amazing. I'm actually going to have Cynthia start us off because this bill for the regenerative agriculture tax credit is actually her idea, and then we really got working on it. So here's my colleague, Cynthia Stewart.
Thank you, Mandy. First of all, I just have to thank Good Business Colorado and Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute just for the opportunity to have to be heard, to have a platform, to have an organization that can take the average person that's not involved in politics and who doesn't know a thing about politics and guide and actually create things that come from an idea, from our heart. That's what happened to me. It's hard to believe it was a year a little over a year ago, I spoke with Deborah from Good Business Colorado about an idea that came to me. I'm a restaurant owner. I own a restaurant in Durango, Colorado, and we source everything local and from regenerative farmers and ranchers. And excuse me, I see the need for more restaurants to do that. And it was just eating at me like, how do we get restaurants to do that? Because it's more expensive, but that relationship needs to be built. I mean, just for the sustainability of our food systems. So I think Deborah was coming down and doing some of her work, and I explained to her, how do I go about creating some kind of an incentive program or a tax credit or something to get restaurants to be interested in doing this? And she took it in her little bonnet and took it back up to GBC, and she introduced me to Angelique, and then Angelique, boom, got on top of it. She introduced me to Senator Cleve Simpson. And before I know it, like, there's people excited about this, and they see the value of this. And regenerative agriculture is not a new topic. It's just from a different angle, from the regenerative or from the restaurant or food and beverage side of things, really. So I was just fortunate to have these people guiding me to that. And then Mandy, who you're going to hear the rest of this from, she is a co-founder in another business that I have, and with her, and she saw that we need to have more involvement. And I'm a restaurant owner. Anybody that's been in the industry knows I don't have a lot of extra time. And she just took this, and with amazing support from Angelique and Deborah, Good Business Colorado, and so many other organizations she's going to acknowledge. Once Senator Cleve Simpson showed his interest and said, yes, I will sponsor this bill, Mandy took it from there. So I'm going to hand it over to Mandy, because really from this point on, she took charge and is really the success story for how far it got. So here you go, Mandy.
Thanks, Cynthia. And in case anybody's wondering where to get that awesome food, she runs the James Ranch Grill in Durango, Colorado, and it's amazing. So yeah, my name is Mandy McGill. I'm co-founding Rooted in Real with Cynthia. I'm down in Durango. REAL is an acronym for Regenerative, Ethical, Authentic, and Local. And we are working on an app that's going to help people be able to source food better, because it's hard to know even what questions to ask. I've been working in regenerative work for 8 years or so now, and I just know through everything I've learned how difficult it is, not just for farmers and ranchers to transition to regenerative practices, but also for food and beverage to source that way. It's like we're in a system that kind of keeps us stuck. And so I really loved Cynthia's idea, and with the support of Good Business Colorado and all the other organizations, it's just been amazing to see this process unfold and get to be involved in a way I never believed I would. Yeah, I had never done anything in politics. And then I was like, oh, I can do this. This is really cool. So the bill did not pass this year, but actually I'm kind of happy about that, because we learned a lot, and it's giving us the chance to really engage more stakeholders. We already had amazing support, and this had bipartisan support in both the Senate and the House. Anyway, but we've got so many people who are excited and want to know more and want to be involved. And so we're going to be working on that. So we are planning to run this again next year. And we're going to get started on it even sooner this time. So I am actually forming a regenerative transition coalition. And this is to work with Colorado Department of Ag to create the definition of regenerative, which doesn't exist yet in our country. And also, what are the parameters for how do we transition? Because it can't just be throw all your regenerative eggs in one basket. We've got to have some steps. So I just want to put it out there to everybody. If you're interested in being involved, I'll put my email in the chat. And I'm putting that together to have some meetings over the next few months to get that going. So it's super exciting, because this is really transitional and transformational work for our food system and everyone involved, including nature. So just some key takeaways, tons of amazing relationship building. I got to see how easy and fun it is to lobby at the Capitol. I've been up there a couple of times now, and I had a blast. It was way more fun and like easy than I thought, and got to know the senators and representatives, and just kind of, felt like I was at my house hanging out with my friends. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, just excited for getting to take forward some of these realizations and learnings into our next session, and just really come out of the gate stronger. So just so appreciate the opportunity, and can't wait to get going on this again.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Cynthia and Mandy, for your leadership. Everyone feel free to share kudos and celebrations and questions in the chat. And then Mandy, we would love to have any additional information around how folks can get involved to bring this bill forward next year. Thank you to you both. Next up, I'd like to invite Tiffany to share a bit about the House bills that you've been engaged on.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Weber. I am the owner of Red Rocks Customs. We're a company based out of Georgetown. I would like to be able to hire more people locally. I like having an in-person workforce. I think it makes people more accountable to the team and to the work that they do. While I'm glad that we all have the flexibility to work remote when we need to, it's just something that I found has really helped with my team building. The problem is there's no affordable housing really anywhere in Colorado. So I testified for House Bill 1313, which will help build more affordable housing in transit-oriented communities. And I'm very excited to say that it passed. But I think advocacy is important for business owners because some of the most important voices that legislators can hear. Not only are we constituents, but we're also, job creators and a big factor in economic growth, which are some of the things that get them reelected. And then advocacy in general, I think, is important because we've got power in numbers, and when we're supporting ethical legislation, we know that we're making a positive difference in our communities. But Angelique has been really helpful in getting me all of the info and the support that I needed to testify. I was pretty nervous at first, but what I found helpful was to write out everything that I wanted to say. And then there was a 2-minute time limit. So I practiced out loud and edited it down to 2 minutes. And then I also ended up being able to incorporate part of my personal story in the testimony, which I hope made it more impactful, and it made it really empowering for me to share.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, and congrats on the legislative win. Everyone feel free to share celebrations and kudos in the chat. Thank you so much. Next up, I'd like to invite Bryce to share a bit about House bills that they've been engaged on.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was able to testify in HB 1313, and I'd just like to say, not only is GBC awesome, just connecting us to the world of legislation. Angelique, like, you're a saint to sit in the room and coordinate all this for us. It's crazy. Like, I just remember the experience of my timeline getting delayed, and just thanks for your patience to stick with us and make it super easy for us to connect. Really appreciate that. To me, it was just so exciting to see, like, just the enthusiasm as we were testifying. One of the things I noticed right away is that the folks in the suits, it seemed like, got a little less attention than some of the real voices in the room. Oh, hang on a second. Just the real voices in the room, I think, were recognized really well. I actually, just oddly enough, was recognized for actually staying to the time frame that we had to deliver our messaging. So I thought that was pretty cool. Was not expecting that at all. But HB 1313, I think the real impact that it has is on people that come from socioeconomically disadvantaged classes. Our business does well. We have a home. It's all good on our end. And there's people from my heritage background that will never be able to afford homes here in Colorado, that have challenges getting to and from work because they can't afford car payments. And so this transit-oriented communities bill really helps that social economic challenged class to get better access to better work, better job, maybe even having a chance to own a home someday. And I'm just really proud to have supported it, and I'm proud to see that it passed. So thanks again to you all for supporting us.
Thanks so much, Bryce. Sharing some additional celebrations. I see the chat's really active. Congrats on 1313, and thanks again for your leadership in this space. Next up, I would like to invite Helen, who is going to share a bit more about the bill that you and a team have envisioned and sort of how that shook out during the legislative session.
Hello, everybody. My name is Helen. I'm with the East Colfax Community Collective. And the bill was on our commercial property tax. We were trying to do a third payment installment, which would allow the commercial small businesses pay in a monthly increments instead of once a year or twice a year. And this idea actually came a couple of years ago from one of our businesses that was struggling to pay her bills, her property tax, and she almost shut down during COVID. She actually almost shut down several times, and she didn't have any kind of leniency to pay her property tax. And she was saying, what do we do? How do we do this? And we just brainstormed, and instead of thinking about, instead of like fighting to lower the property tax, which is quite high. It's one actually the highest one in the country for the commercial property tax. We looked at several different businesses, and they said if we just had a little more extra time, then we'll be able to get enough money to pay our property tax. So we had a steering committee put together. Thank you with Angelique and team. They also supported us. We've had a good mentor, Jonathan Singer. So me, Nadine, and the small businesses in the East Colfax quarter came together and put this bill. We were able to get through with the commission and the property tax. They accepted the bill. Unfortunately, last minute, a couple days right before legislation, they did drop it due to it's property tax. We're dealing with property tax, so we're still fighting it, and we'll still be there next year. But it's something that it's our first time as an organization. So we are anti-displacement organization. So we do everything we can to support our small businesses and community in the East Colfax quarter to stay in place. And so this was our first time. It was a very big learning experience for us, and Angelique was there the whole time, holding our hand throughout the whole experience, and we got as far as we did due to this group, as well as our small businesses being very opinionated, very going through like this is what they wanted. They were in several news articles and media just to show like this is what we want. Unfortunately, we did. We didn't get it. Just look out for us for next year, because we're not going to give up until we get what we wanted. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Helen, for all of your leadership. We know that this can be a long journey. If there are ways that folks in this room can get involved, feel free to share any follow-up information in the chat as well. And please send some celebrations and joy to Helen and the team for this important bill that we hope to see again next year. Excellent. Next up, I would like to invite two folks, Rochelle and Flavia, who will be talking about what it was like to engage in a day of action at the Capitol. Flavia, you're on my screen first, so do you mind if we start with you?
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Alrighty. So my name is Flavia. I'm the minority owner of CoWare. I've been in business for about a month physically, registered my business last year, but opened finally at my location last month. I'm pretty excited. I'm located in Aurora, and I offer casual outgoing apparel in standard and inclusive sizing. And I'm a recent graduate of RMMFI bootcamp. So I'm appreciative of them greatly. And I also learned a lot on the event. I got to meet Rhonda Fields, who is the representative for the Arapahoe County, which my business is located. And I found it very easy to talk to her and talk to her in person. I thought there was more of a process to talk to somebody in politics, but it's surprising that it's very welcoming. It's very simple to get in contact with them and voice your opinion. And what I mentioned to her was that there's a lot of businesses in Aurora where they don't have a lot of startup funds. So speaking to her directly and voicing my opinion where more resources are needed in the Arapahoe County was very needed for someone to voice out. A minority owner myself, so it was nice to join an event like that and meet the governor as well, and meet other entrepreneurs and learn from them and get ideas. So I welcome everybody out there to join in on the next event. So I appreciate the time to be able to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Flavia. Rochelle, can I invite you up to share a few words about engaging in a day of action as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is Rochelle Lucusa. I am the owner of Lucusa Enterprises, LLC. I provide bookkeeping services for small businesses and also nonprofits. I think it was particularly interesting to have that day at the Capitol for me because we talked about a couple of bills that actually pertain to a few of the clients that I work with. And one of them was the ex-offenders practice in regulated occupations, and also the one for healthcare. And I just found it very interesting how much basically as small business owners, we have such a great impact on what's happening legislatively in our state. Being able to know that some of these bills that are getting passed or that are getting discussed, whether it's in spaces at the Capitol or even within the organizations that we serve or provide services to, there's just a lot of conversation around what can we do to improve the lives of people who have gone through some things and who are trying to get back into society and make an honest living when there are so many things that stand in the way sometimes of them being able to have another chance at just being considered like simple human with human rights. So I thought that was really cool. One thing that was great for me as well, we had an opportunity to speak to, and I hope I don't butcher this, Representative Meg Rolick, I think that's how you say her name. And we talked about the cost of the rising cost of rent, of housing in the Denver metro area, and all of the work that needs to be done so that it is inclusive. I think in terms of the rural areas, there's a lot of different areas who have, I think, tax rebates for living maybe a little bit outside of the city. But then making sure that the people who live outside of the city, even though it's maybe more affordable, can have access to some of the common amenities, I would say, that we have access to on a regular basis can be extremely challenging as well. But this is an opportunity for us to, as small business owners, also to create something different to be able to serve those communities as well. So I thought that was great. It was very insightful. I would definitely encourage anyone to participate next year as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rochelle. Sending some celebrations to Flavia and Rochelle in the chat. And then if you were also at the Day of Action at the Capitol, feel free to share that in the chat as well. I see some familiar faces here from that day. Next up, I would like to invite Naisha, who is going to talk about one of the other ways that you can engage in this broader advocacy and legislative work, which was through Good Business Colorado's Policy Passport. And so, Naisha, I'm hoping you could share a little bit with folks what the Policy Passport is and how that helps support your advocacy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I am Naisha Williams. I'm the owner of KJ. I have a business that specializes in holistic healing. So I sell herbs, herbal teas, tinctures, gemstone jewelry, anything to heal your body naturally. I'm like Flavia. I just opened up my business a month ago as well, but I'm actually located in Southeast Denver. So for me going to there, I wanted to be a fly on the wall. I went to just see the experience, understand the experience before I jumped in and started doing anything. So for me to do the passport kind of pushed me to take a more active role in being there on the Day of Action. So whether it was taking pictures with representative, the Senate, and then also to actually looking at the floor and seeing how accessible they are for us and how they listen when we come, when we talk to them. We were all in small groups. So that's how I was able to get a lot of my passport points done. Because I was in a group that we all went and talked to everyone. We all took pictures. We all looked around. And so for me, I can't remember going to the Capitol when I was in school. So you never learned that piece of how the process works. And I was always told there's two things you don't want to see being made, sausage and bills, but which is not the case. Like we should take an active role, especially as business owners and these people in the community. And so doing the passport kind of pushed me to be more interactive, which I think it was great because I wanted to just, like I said, be a fly on the wall, go and see the process and see how everything is done. But it really gave me and empowered me to be able to take steps. So not only just complaining, like, okay, I see this is going on in my community and I don't like this, but now knowing who to go talk to, who to send the emails to, how to look things up, and how to make my voice be heard. So I think a lot of times we think if we want to see change, we do it through voting or through protesting. But the legislative part of it is a part that I think a lot of us miss, how a lot of things actually get changed and done. So I was very grateful to be there and then also for it to have that passport to kind of push some of us who wanted to be in the back of the classroom to take an active role in the day. So I definitely appreciate it and definitely enjoyed my time there.
Thank you so much, Naisha. And with that, those are our entrepreneur and employer presenters today. I'm hoping everyone can come off mute for a second and just give a round of applause for all of the advocacy that happened this session. Nice job, everybody.
Congratulations. Great job.
Amazing. And if you were engaged in other ways that we didn't cover just now, feel free to share that in the chat, and we would love to celebrate you and your advocacy as well. I am going to turn things over to Angelique, who's going to talk a bit more about an overall legislative recap now that session is over. And Angelique, if you would like, I can share my screen and I have your slides ready to go.
That would be great. I was just trying to get them going for me, so even better. Okay, so just a little overview of some of the legislation that GBC focused on this year. And if anyone who doesn't know us, we are a grassroots organization of values-driven employers and entrepreneurs across the state, and we work together for equitable communities, a sustainable environment, and a prosperous economy, which sometimes looks a little different than what some of the larger chambers might be advocating for. Go ahead and switch slide. Great. So we advocated for, and you heard a little bit about, two housing bills. One is that 1313 transit-oriented communities that you heard both Tiffany and Bryce talk about a little bit. It promotes denser development near housing, transit, jobs, and other resources. And we know this is important because it provides more affordability because there's just more of them. And it also expands sort of the area in which people can easily commute into their jobs. So this was one that was really important for us from an employer point of view. And the other was HB 1152 accessory dwelling units, which are those little like casitas or granny flats that you might have over a garage or maybe in a backyard, just a little apartment. And in a lot of places in Colorado, you are prohibited from building one of those if you live in a neighborhood that's just sort of single family homes. But that is a way for people to be able to, first of all, sometimes have a parent or a grown child live in an affordable space that's nearby. And also it can provide a revenue stream for someone, maybe an entrepreneur who's looking to make ends meet. Being able to have a unit like this and rent it out can be helpful. So this was a bill that passed that just made it more easier for people to do, remove some of the red tape. And thankfully, both of those passed. So housing, yay. Next slide. Actually, go back if you would. I'm just going to take a minute and see if anybody has questions about these bills. And I can't see everyone. Go
I
ahead.
have a question, and excuse my ignorance on this. From where the money or the funding will come to build this housing?
Sure. So primarily it comes from the homeowner. However, there are certain provisions for people who might not have an extra, however much it costs lying around, particularly if they agree to keep it affordable, they can get some tax credit money to support them in building a unit.
Hi,
So
if I
Go ahead.
understand right, so the little houses will be built in the owner's property, kind of like a garage kind of thing, but it's more like a small miniature home? Or
Yeah, like a little mother-in-law home, a little apartment that's attached, and it's not being built by the government. It's just that if you have a home and you want to build one of those because let's say your grown kid can't find housing anywhere, or you need to take care of a parent, it used to be really hard to get the permit to build that. The city wouldn't let you. And this bill made it so that the city has to let you if you live in certain areas. They can still have some regulations on the size and the shape and so forth, but they can't just say no to you. They have to allow you to build it as the homeowner. Okay, next slide.
That work?
I'm looking at the slide. Somehow I did not get that title updated. Would you mind just popping in there, Teresa? Is it possible to say, so SB 24-229 is actually called ozone. It's an ozone regulation bill. It's a climate bill. So we supported this bill, which sets a target for NOx emissions, which are basically pollutions from oil and gas operations and places like Suncor. So those operations produce a lot of pollution that disproportionately impact to the neighborhoods right around them and also contribute to poor air in Colorado. So this bill provides some greater accountability and transparency that the oil and gas operators are required to provide around air pollution. And thank you, ozone mitigation measures. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, about that little update. I was quickly making these slides for the presentation. So, and also it's sort of appropriate because this bill was introduced in the last week of the session. And so it was a big scramble for people to look at it and decide if it was a good idea. Our membership has expressed that climate is an important issue for them, that the impacts of air pollution and climate change, fires, floods, all these things are already impacting their businesses in terms of insurance costs, in terms of if you live in a tourist area and people can't be outside, you're losing revenue. So we do look at climate legislation as being relevant for businesses. And so this was our primary climate bill, in addition to the regenerative agriculture bill, which I'll talk about a little bit more after this slide. So the other thing that we really hear from members is healthcare is very important and very hard for smaller employers to be able to offer affordably. And so we were very interested in this bill, which was HB 24-1075. It would analyze it would be a study, an analysis of what a universal healthcare payment system might look like in Colorado, whether it might be feasible, what the economic impacts would be, how it would be financed. And a lot of our members are very interested in this because it decouples healthcare coverage from the employer. So instead of the employer being responsible to offer it, this would be the individual being able to access a payment system that would be a statewide payment system. So essentially the state would sort of operate as the insurance company, more or less, but the doctors and the hospitals would still be private. The climate bill passed and the healthcare bill died on the calendar, which means that it was, didn't get voted down, but it just didn't have time to get all the way through before the last day of the session, because the legislators are only allowed to meet for 120 days. So midnight on the 120th day, any bill that hasn't gotten all the way through the process is not going to happen that year. So that's what we call died on the calendar. But I just spoke with a group that was driving this bill. I spoke with them last night. They're very interested in bringing it back, and they're particularly interested in engaging the business community in reasons why this could really be beneficial for small businesses, especially. So look out for more on that later. Are there questions about the climate bill, the pollution bill, or the healthcare bill?
I just had like a little inquiry. What the healthcare bill will be put on the ballot again for next year? Or is it just gonna be there?
It probably won't be on the ballot this year.
Mhm.
I think they will probably bring it back to the legislature in January. So you're unlikely, you won't see it on the November ballot, but we will probably see it again in some format in the legislature next year,
Okay, thank you.
is my guess. Although it's certainly possible that in a future year, they end up bringing it to the ballot if they can't get it through the legislature. Okay, next
Angelique,
slide. Uh-huh.
I have a quick question for you. How can we as a business be participating in that bill, just to support the need for that?
I anticipate that we will be doing that we might do like an educational webinar about it in the coming months. And we may have some kind of like a sign-on or something where people can express that they're interested in getting ongoing information about it. As I said, I just spoke with this group last night, and they were very interested in collaborating on this. And so I was going to reach out to some of our partners like RMMFI and see if there's interest in doing maybe a joint education session about it. So stay tuned.
That'd be great. All right, thank you.
How are we doing for time, Teresa?
Doing good.
All right, next slide. So this was the regenerative agriculture tax credit, which Mandy and Cynthia did such a great job of talking about earlier. It would have incentivized Colorado food and beverage businesses to purchase local regenerative agriculture products by providing a 25% tax credit for the products that they buy that are verified local and regeneratively produced. Now, there would have had to be a rulemaking part where the state defines what regenerative agriculture is and how they're going to verify it. So that was going to still need to be worked out after the bill passed. Unfortunately, it did not pass, but it came so close. We were thrilled to have that as a bipartisan bill. introduced by Senator Cleve Simpson. We had unanimous votes to move it forward in almost every committee. And everyone we talked to was really excited about this bill and thought it was a great idea. Unfortunately, by the end of the legislative session, the economic forecast had made it so that there weren't enough tax credit resources to go around, basically, for all the bills that were asking for a tax credit. And so the House Committee on Appropriations had to prioritize what bills were going to get potentially heard to get allocated for a tax credit. We're pretty sure that this bill they would have voted yes if it had come up in committee, but unfortunately, it was never scheduled for committee before, again, the clock ran out. However, we're totally going to get it in 2025. We were able to do a lot of crafting and developing the bill, and we will have the whole summer to do some stakeholdering and make it even better. So it often takes more than a year to get something like this done, and we're not seeing it at all as a failure. It's a win, and we're going to move it forward next year for sure. Do I have a next slide? I don't think I do.
So. I think I have a next slide.
You have the next slide. You're up.
Thanks, Angelique.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Were there any other questions on that regenerative agriculture tax bill? Okay, go for it, Teresa.
I just wanted to comment that it's sad because you know, the agricultural sector feeds to a lot of economic sectors in our local and national economy. So hopefully we can bring it back next year.
Yep, definitely. Thanks, Bere.
All right, well, I'm going to piggyback on Angelique and share a few additional bills this session, and just really briefly about Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute, RMMFI. We are a lender, a mission-driven lender, and an education and technical assistance provider, helping entrepreneurs realize the power of their dreams and their vision through business ownership. We work across the state, and we really focus on putting entrepreneurs at the center of the business. And we partner a lot with Good Business Colorado, who's really focused on the advocacy space. We are here because entrepreneurs in our network have asked us to be, in terms of addressing some of the systemic and broader ecosystem barriers that are perhaps preventing folks from realizing their full potential in their business. And so the couple of bills that I'm going to start with are really focused on the person behind the business, on the entrepreneur. And I'm going to share first about House Bill 1311, which is the Family Affordability Tax Credit. As Angelique alluded to, there were a lot of tax credits going through this session. This one did pass. And essentially, 1311 creates an income tax credit for qualifying Coloradans with children under the ages of 17. It's a sliding scale tax credit that families will receive up to $3,200 per child, based on a variety of factors, including the age of the child, the income of the family, inflation, and economic growth. Essentially, lower income families with younger children will receive more of the benefit, and higher income families with older age children will receive less. And there's a couple of formulas that help determine what that tax credit looks like. It's not yet been signed into law, but the governor has indicated his support. And really, like, broadly, this is an effort to help reduce child poverty and really support our families in Colorado. The second is House Bill 1004, which Rochelle earlier alluded to. This is ex-offenders practice in regulated occupations, and this also passed. It establishes a uniform process for the consideration of criminal records in occupational licensure applications. And what that means is that it helps reduce barriers for formerly incarcerated entrepreneurs might experience in getting a license in their field or trade that they want to run their business in. It really limits those fields and trades that could be blocked by an occupational licensure barrier in nearly all cases of nonviolent offenses, and allows individuals to then petition a regulator to remove a barrier that potentially exists for an occupational license that they are seeking. Again, not yet signed into law, but the governor has indicated his support. And this one has been really powerful, as Rochelle spoke to, just in leveling the playing field for any formerly incarcerated individuals, many of whom pursue small business ownership as a means to generate income and really pursue their dreams. And then the third one here is House Bill 1223, which we've seen this title in Angelique's slide, but this is, I'm going to talk about it this time. So this is improved access to CCAP, which is the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. This bill did pass and does make some changes to CCAP to include a study to update some of the eligibility process and reimbursement methods for childcare providers, but it passed with a lot of amendments. And so the heart and soul of this bill was to make it easier for families who want assistance in paying for childcare to access that easier, as well as childcare providers who want to participate in this program, make it easier on their side. This bill, most of the budget and the original provisions were dropped as part of this bill, but it did pass to include a study. I think the thing to share here is that there's really signals being sent to the legislature that folks are interested in more childcare support as a state. We have paid family medical leave, we have universal pre-K, we have the CCAP program now. We've been hearing from entrepreneurs in our network who are parents that childcare is a huge chunk of something that can, support or hinder the business growth. So we'll continue to see bills like this in the next legislative session, I imagine. Are there any questions on any of these bills?
Please, Teresa, again, excuse my ignorance, I need to read more about the bill. I just wondered if one of the amendments was also on income levels. Do you know?
Can you say that again, Bernice?
Yeah, can you share if one of the amendments were on the income levels families can apply to?
So not that has passed, although there's some original pieces of the bill that would allude to that, but essentially this bill in its current form is just going to be studying some of these potential updates rather than making them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I've got one more slide that are focused more on specific small business bills that passed this session that folks in this room might be interested in. So RMMFI and Good Business Colorado haven't been as active as these, but we wanted to make sure to get some information out to the networks. So House Bill 1133 is the reauthorization of what's called the Rural Jumpstart Program. This program has already been in existence. It offers tax credits and grants available to businesses as well as their employees that participate in rural jumpstart zones. This bill reinforces and adds extra budget to continue this program. So if you operate your business in a rural jump zone, which you can Google after this, this could be something for you to follow. Another one is House Bill 1157, which is Employee-Owned Business Office and Income Tax Credit. This bill codifies the employee ownership office, which has currently existed but wasn't codified into law, and embeds it into OEDIT, the state agency that supports business and small business, and creates an income tax credit for certain costs incurred by new employee-owned business. So if you are an employee-owned business or you are considering transitioning to being an employee-owned business, one, this office is going to be a good resource for you, but this bill and the income tax credit will be one to follow. And then the final one here is House Bill 134, which is the operation of home-based businesses. This did pass. It prohibits HOAs from making a blanket restriction on being able to not operate a business in an HOA community. So if you have experienced that type of barrier, if you live in an HOA community, you operate your business from home and you are experiencing some barriers with that, this bill, which now passed, is really explicit that that is not from a blanket statement allowed to be restricted. So hopefully that removes a barrier for some business owners. Any questions on these bills?
Just want to understand that if you lived well, because I was gonna live, but then I decided not to, we decided not to actually buy the home there because I wasn't gonna be able to just have a little office running my business there. So this is what will eliminate that from an HOA house, like having just your office in your own home running, just doing the administration. That's
Yeah. So I can't speak to the specifics of your situation, but basically what had been occurring is, so say me, I'm an entrepreneur, I live in a condo building that has an HOA. The HOA itself blocks me from saying that you can that any business could be operated in this HOA. So they would say no businesses can be run from your home if you own a condo in this HOA. And this bill does not prohibits that. So now you cannot have that blanket restriction.
okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So Teresa, just adding on what Fran said, so for example, can I have a logo of my company outside my house now?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if this bill specifically does anything around that, but that's an interesting question.
Yeah. Is there a place where we can ask this question? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we can connect afterwards, Bernice, because I think I'm not super familiar with the ways that HOAs overall govern any sort of commercial operation that's happening in your home and what that might mean for say putting a logo somewhere. So I'd have to look into a little bit more, but maybe you and I can connect.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And with that, those are our bill updates. Does anyone have additional questions, whether it's for myself or Angelique, on other bills from this legislative session? Awesome. Well, Angelique, anything else to share from your seat with this crew?
I think we had a great conversation. I have to say, I was so heartened to hear people talk about finding out that participating in the legislative process is not as hard as they thought. You know, that's what makes me happy is helping people find that empowerment. And it's just incredibly, it just makes my heart sing to hear it. So I just want to thank everyone who spoke about that. And I'm so proud of you all.
Well, maybe we can do one more round of applause if you all can come off mute for all of the leadership in this room during the session. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great job.
All right, and with that, that is our legislative wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining us, and then look out for more information from Angelique and myself on ways to continue to stay engaged in the off legislative session and the many other things that are coming our way. So thank you all so much. Thanks, everybody.